Hi everyone, Jess O'Garr, clinical psychologist for the Psych Collective. Another one for our schema series today. And today we're going to go back to basics and we're going to talk about what is a schema and the different types of schemas. Okay, so a schema is a framework. Okay, it's a framework for organizing information. It's kind of like a blueprint for how we collect, store, interpret information for ourselves, other people, and the world around us, right? Typically, schemas will start to develop in childhood simply because as kids we're a blank slate and we start to absorb information, and as we absorb information we start to categorize things. We put them into networks, we arrange them in a way that helps us to make sense of what's happening. We'll have a schema for animals, we'll have a schema for transport vehicles, we'll have a schema for occupations, right? These schemas that we're going to be focusing on look more at the schemas for ourselves. Okay, now children who had their needs met and had lots of positive experiences will usually develop adaptive schemas of things like, I am a good person and I am wanted in this world. But for kids who've had experiences where their needs weren't met or they had some negative early experiences are more likely to develop maladaptive schemas. That's not 100% the rule. Sometimes you may have people that have beautiful childhoods and then the major trauma could happen in adulthood, and that then creates kind of a cascade of maladaptive schemas after that. But typically speaking, most of the work that we do in schema therapy and schema mode therapy is looking at early childhood as kind of the start of some of these maladaptive schemas. Now, temperament also has a big impact on the development of these maladaptive schemas. Temperament is the kind of early formation of personality, okay? We are born with our temperament. If you've ever spent time around kids, you'll know that some kids are really chilled, really easy to settle. They'll eat whatever you give them, they'll sleep when you put them to bed. And then you'll have other kids who will scream no matter what you do. They're hard to settle, they're hard to feed, they're hard to put to sleep. That's the parents kind of shaking, what else do you need, right? Those kids have what we call a hypersensitive temperament. They feel things really intensely, and this is hardwired. If you have a hypersensitive temperament, it is not your fault. Let me say that again. If you have a hypersensitive temperament, it is not your fault. It's the way you were born, and you can't change your temperament. You can learn how to modify your reactions, but you can't change your temperament, okay? But if you have a hypersensitive temperament, then you are more at risk of developing some maladaptive schemas, okay? And when schemas are maladaptive, they become rigid and they become more inflexible over time. And if you've heard about core beliefs, it's kind of like the schemas are the category for a core belief, okay? So the CBT stuff that some of you may have done actually ties in quite nicely with schema therapy because it links into the categories, all right? Now, a guy called Jeffrey Young in 2006 published a book about schema therapy in practice, and from there he identified 18 different maladaptive schemas. I'm going to put a hand up on our website that gives you the full list, but I'm going to briefly talk you through those 18 now. So starting off with emotional deprivation. This is the belief that the emotions that you experience are never going to be met by other people, that your needs are not going to be met. You probably had early experiences of not getting affection or support that you needed, and thus believe that that will continue. So the expectation is that other people will continue to deprive you of your needs, okay? The next one is around abandonment. If you had early experiences of caregivers or important people in your life leaving, then the maladaptive schema afterwards is going to be, everyone's going to leave. Why bother having an attachment? Why bother developing a relationship? Because everyone's going to leave me all the time anyway. Mistrust and abuse is number 3. It looks at if you've had early experiences of abuse and neglect or trauma, then there's an expectation that people are going to lie, cheat, hurt, abuse you in the future, okay? Defectiveness is the next one. It's the belief that there is something inherently wrong with you and there's nothing you're going to be able to do to change it. Social isolation is the next one, which talks about the belief that you don't fit in anywhere. It's a sense of not belonging. It's a sense of kind of always being on the outside of a group. Dependence and incompetence is the belief that you will always have to rely on other people to do basic tasks for you, and you're incapable of doing basic tasks or daily kind of tasks of living for yourself. Vulnerability to harm or illness is the belief that you're always at risk of harm or injury or catastrophe, and there's nothing you can do to prevent it. Enmeshment's the next one. That's the belief that what you within yourself are kind of not enough as a person, and you don't have this good sense of kind of who you are as an individual, and so you need to be involved or really over involved in someone else's life because they're better, they're more important, they're more special than you are. So there's kind of this over involvement in other people and a difficulty trying to separate you from them. Okay? Failure. Now, failure is the belief that you have always failed or you are always going to fail at something else. So this is kind of a good example of where I talked about schemas are the categories for core beliefs. So if the schema is failure, then the core belief is I'm going to fail at everything. I always fail. There's no point in even trying. See how that works? Next one, subjugation. The belief that you need to hand over control to other people to make decisions for you. Could be because of fear of consequences if you didn't, or the belief that other people are more powerful than you, or other people are smarter than you, so they're in a better position to be making decisions on your behalf. Okay? Self-sacrificing. The belief that everyone else's needs are more important than yours and that you must do everything you can to be meeting the needs of other people to the detriment of your own happiness and well-being. Attention seeking. Attention seeking is the belief that you need achievement approval or praise or kind of the notice of other people, and there's a bit of a kind of chameleon sense around this of I need other people to see me and to validate me and to kind of accept me so that I can feel like I actually have value to kind of fit in and be noticed by other people. Entitlement. This is kind of where we get to see some of the narcissistic tendencies. People with an entitlement schema feel that they are better than everyone else and that they are more deserving of special treatment. So they're more likely to kind of break the rules and think they're going to be able to get away with it and don't understand why anyone else would have a problem with that. Insufficient self-control. The really strong kind of impulsive, reckless sort of behavior, the desire to just do whatever you want whenever you feel like it. There's a low frustration tolerance and there's a high reward sensitivity. So I want it and I want it now, and a lot of difficulty with sort of sustained effort on a difficult task. If it's going to take too long, I won't bother, I just want it now. Insufficient self-control is actually quite a common schema that we would see in people who struggle with addiction. Okay? Next one's negativity. This is the glass half empty, the people who have a tendency to see the negative or the bad side in absolutely everything all the time. Emotional inhibition. This is the belief that if I show my emotions, it's a sign of weakness. So I need to hold absolutely everything in and never let my guard down and never show anyone what I'm feeling. And it's the people with the poker face. I don't have one of those. I don't know how that one works, but some people do that one pretty well. Unrelenting standards, right? The belief that you must be perfect at everything ties in quite nicely with a perfectionistic overcompensator mode that we've done a video on already. And the idea that everything must be done perfectly to a really high standard at all times. The last one being punitiveness. This is the belief that if anyone does anything wrong, they deserve to be punished, including ourselves. And fortunately, punitiveness can actually feed into a lot of kind of self-harming behaviors at times where people feel that they need to punish themselves when they've done something wrong. All right, I'm going to put a hand up on the website that'll give a summary of the schemas here identified by Jeffrey Young. Share this one around if you found it helpful. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, thesitecollective.com. And I will see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.